Hey, 3D Basics class, week 8. A little bit of a mixed bag of topics today. The first topic is curves. What are they? How do you use them? What good is it? We will explore several answers to those questions. A secondary topic, we'll look at precision using the 3D cursor to help you. And we'll maybe throw in a couple of little things there at the end. We'll see how we're feeling. Let's start with curves in Blender. Select everything. Delete everything. Shift A. On your add menu here, let's just take note of the different symbols that go along with each of these different types of objects. You know, mesh has this triangle, curve has this little curve, text has the letter A, so yeah, just keep note. So let's add a curve in here. You're probably seeing a couple of extra things that I have here, like this sapling tree generator or whatever. I got a couple of add-ons enabled here. But begin with Bezier curve. And maybe I'm saying it wrong, and maybe I don't care. Okay, an orange line. Here is our Bezier curve. To edit a curve, tab to get into edit mode. So a curve is a line connected by vertices. It functions just like lines in your graph editor. So we have points along the line that have these red handles that you can move around that kind of influence the curve. So select a point on the curve. This one just has 2 points to begin. And same keyboard shortcuts to transform apply. So G to grab and move. A vertex, R to rotate the handles, and it kind of changes the influence of the curve. And S to scale down the handles so that it has less influence over the curve. Okay. R, yep, cool, got it. To extend or extrude, just E. E extrude. E extrude. E extrude. R rotate. E extrude. S to scale up. R rotate like that. Cool. We can even like complete the loops. Let me just go E extrude again here and like turn that around, and S will make it really big this way, and then E extrude again. R rotate. So then if we want to like join them in at the end, we can select these two and right click. And which one is it? Oh, I just did it. Why am I? Oh, make segment up here, F. So like F is fill, but F also kind of completes the loop here. Okay. Cool. So now we've got like a little blob. Nice. Okay. So what do we do with this? Well, you've got several options. Let's look at the object data properties here. It's this green one. So shape, you can signal 2D or 3D. So if you have it toggled 2D, it's not going to, you're not going to be able to move the vertexes on the Z axis. But if you toggle 3D, you can move these up and down like this. You can have it in 3 dimensions. So if it's, you can do whatever. Let's look at geometry here. So twirl open, and I should say, so like the smoothness of it is determined here. So like obviously I have one vertex here and one vertex here. Yet, you know, it's kind of calculating the curve between these 2 points. Now because these ones are further away than say these two, you can maybe see that there's kind of little corners here. That's because it's this one here, the resolution U. So if you turn this up to like 37, there's going to be 37 segments between each point. So your curve is going to be more rounded. Whereas if I do 4, you can see it's like chunk. There's only 4 sections in between. So pros and cons to each. Obviously, you know, we talk about this almost every week, that like striking the balance between having enough geometry to make it look good, but not so much that it's going to crash your computer. So I don't know, maybe 24. It totally depends. Okay. So that's like the resolution of the curve. Open up geometry. Look at geometry down here. First one here is extrude. So let's look at this. Extrude. So if you twirl this open, it kind of makes a ribbon. That's kind of cool. So the advantage of using a curve is like you can have curvy things much more easily than if you were to try to use the regular modeling tools. You know, like doing soft selection to have things bend, or, you know, whatever, trying to like extrude things and sculpt things like that. So like, you know, we've got a little ribbon here, but then it's really easy to just sort of like, you know, move it around and kind of adjust and twirl and do whatever. G, move that out. R, rotate. Okay. So that's this extrude here. The one that's maybe a little bit more interesting is bevel. So it's kind of a sub drop down of geometry here. So first option is round. So crank up the depth. So, you know, we're making a little tube here with bevel. And again, you can up the resolution, so it kind of makes it look a little bit smoother if you want. Fill cap. So if it was like open on the end, it could actually be like a tube that you can see into, or if you fill the caps, it'll just be flat on the end like that. Yeah. Okay. So that's bevel. Actually, so let me delete this real quick. Let me show you a couple examples. Actually, tab to get back on object mode. Let me delete this. Let me start with a basic curve again. Okay, 7 for my top-down view. Tab to edit, and I'm just gonna extrude this a couple times, just to kind of show you some examples. So this one is just a start and an end. It's not a loop. Okay, so again, if we do, whoops, sorry. Undo that. If we do, not extrude. Sorry guys, I'm going crazy here. Okay. Bevel. If we do a round bevel, you can see it's open on the end. So here's what fill caps looks like. The other thing I just wanted to show you is taper object. I'm not entirely sure how this works. But with these kinds of things that you can do with curves, it can interact with another curve object. So real quick, I'm going to go tab back into object mode. I'm going to select this curve, and I'm going to Shift D, duplicate it, and just kind of move it here. And on this one, I'm going to remove the bevel. And I'm going to call this like taper curve. Curb? Sure. Okay, selecting the first one again. I'm going to click here and set my taper object as taper curb. And again, like I'm not exactly sure how this works. But then if I tab into edit mode, and you can like kind of move these things around and like change the taper of the object. You guys are smarter than me, and maybe you'll figure out exactly how this works. But I don't know. You can kind of create some cool things based on the taper of another curve or the position of another curve. I don't know. Override. You fiddle with these settings. Multiply. Add. Oh, add. Okay, anyway, just wanted to show you that. I'm not, again, I don't know. I don't really know how it works. Okay. The other thing. So we're looking at bevel down here. So this is just a round bevel. The other thing you can do is you can bevel, and maybe you can predict what I'm going to say. You can bevel an object. So it's sort of like taking an object and like extruding it along this path. So I'm in object mode. Let me Shift A. Let's add a new Bezier curve. And with this one, I'm going to go 7 for a top-down view. Tab to edit. And actually, I'm going to delete these first two to start, and I'm going to delete these vertices. So it's just kind of an empty curve right now. But look at it. We've got a couple of tools over here. We've got a draw. It says draw freehand spline or use a curve pen. So I'm actually just going to get the pencil here, and I'm just going to draw like a letter N like this. Okay. Try to connect it there. Let's see how I did connecting it. Usually if you're close, it'll kind of complete the loop for you. Yeah. Okay, so there's my letter N. And then, so we'll call this N curve. Curve. Okay. I'm in object mode. So then I can go back, select this curve. Right? I'm in object mode? Okay. Object mode. Did I do this? Okay, sorry. Sometimes like this gets wonky because I'm like one thing's in edit mode, the other thing's in object mode. So make sure that with everything, this is in object mode, this is in object mode. Why my selection was turning orange. Okay, okay. On my original Bezier curve, my bevel, I've changed to type object, and I want my object to be N curve. Aha. And so now the N is like extruded, along my thing here. And then, oops, don't do that. It's still my pen selected. W for my selection tool, and then you can still like edit this. Whoa. Am I crazy today? So, there's some fun things here that you can do. And so you can do all this without using the modeling tools. So it's a faster way to, object mode and curve. That's being weird for me today. A faster way to create curvy things without using modeling tools. So again, you can edit your first curve, my end curve, to be smaller if I want, or I can edit to be bigger, or I can tab edit mode and actually move some of the vertexes on this curve a little bit. So just some fun, cool things to do. Okay, I'll also show you. So let me add another one. Adding a new Bezier here, like this. 7 for top down. I'm going to tab to edit, and I'm going to delete these ones again. Delete verses. So you also have the pen tool. So if you've used the pen tool in Photoshop or Illustrator or After Effects or whatever, works the same way. So you can click and draw the vertexes like this, and make shapes. Single clicks are vertex, or are like straight corners, whereas if you click and hold, it adds the handles. And then again, I think if you click close, it'll close the loop for you. Yeah, cool. And the other thing too, so if I do A to select all, just like on the graph editor, you can hit the V key and change the handle type to have them all be vector, or you can do V automatic and it'll make them all rounded or aligned or whatever, free. So you can do, W for selection tool. It can be a little wonky to move stuff around, but then so this is free, so you can move the individual handles like this or whatever. Okay. Now, so you may end up then wanting to convert this into a mesh. Maybe you're joining it with another thing, or you're wanting to sculpt it or manipulate it in some way. It's as easy as, go to your object menu and convert to mesh like this. And so then now you can see we have all of these actual thingamabobs here. So you can do what you will and edit those that way. The other thing too, like with this one, or maybe even just like with the N, maybe you do want to convert this to a mesh as well. Let's see, convert to a mesh, and then you can, tabbed A for all, and then F for fill, and maybe E extrude, and so you've got something to work with here. So that's kind of the next topic I was going to bring up was like logos. Curves are really good for logos, animating logos, doing 3D logos, whatever. So let me actually delete all of these things. So maybe you're designing a logo right here in Blender. So I don't know. I mean, you get it. If you're a graphic designer, you know what a logo is. But if you are like working with a client, you're designing something for a client and they have their own logo, you can actually import logos into, or you can import vector logos into Blender. So file import. It has to be an SVG, a scalable vector graphic. And I just for fun, I downloaded a free one. I found a free one on the internet, and it's called Mountains SVG. So like if those of you that are graphic designers or interested in this at all, if you're if you don't have an SVG, you can very easily convert it with Illustrator. So maybe it's an EPS file that you've gotten, or maybe it's even just an Illustrator file you can export as an SVG with Illustrator. Okay, so import the SVG, and look, here it is. This is the whole deal. So you can see in my scene collection up here, it imported every little bit as a different curve. So this is MOUNTAINS. Slogan goes here, and then the main curve like this. So I'm gonna delete all of these because I don't want them. I just want this little guy here. So then with a logo, you can do some fun things. The other thing to be aware of, and actually this is kind of going to lead into our next topic a little bit, is making sure that you're conscious of where the origin point is. So like here is the curve up here, but the origin point is kind of far away. So just doing a nice little set origin to geometry like this. So it kind of puts it in the middle. A lot of times too, the scale is way off if you're importing things into Blender. So just give it the old S like this, and then the scale is 31. But if you want to kind of reset all the transforms, you can maybe object apply all transforms. Oh, can't apply to a curve. Oh, well. Maybe not. Anyway, so if you were to do some animating or editing with this, you'd probably first go in your object data properties, take a close look at the resolution around the curves of things. Honestly, 12 looks pretty good. Everything looks really rounded and nice like that. So then you can convert this to a mesh, and then you can animate it or do whatever. A for all, tab for edit mode, A for all, E for extrude, and then, okay, let's follow through with this a little bit. RX90, let's add a camera in the scene here, Shift A, add a camera, Control Alt 0 like this, we move this down. Then we want Shift A, I want to add a light, an area light. Let's G-move it over here and point it at the object like this. And then I want my area light to be 1500 watts, and I want the size to be 4 square meters like this. Let's go render preview. And then let's change this to cycles, and let's put a material on here, a new material. I want it to be kind of like bluish, like baby blue like this, and then like make it a little bit more metallic. And turn the roughness down so it's shiny. But what I really want is I want another light here. Another area light. You could just see how my mind works a little bit. I'm going to kind of move it in front like this. And this is just going to be like a reflection light. I kind of want to move this until I can see the reflection. Oh, yeah. And then up the wattage here to like 500 maybe. And then what you can do, so the material is the roughness is too low. So I need, because the shadows here is too sharp. So I'm going to go back to my curve here. Oh, and up the roughness just a little bit. Maybe, yeah, 0.1. And then you can, I don't know, RZ rotate this. So it's like, whoosh, you see a little shine going through it. I don't know. That's just my idea. Speaking of animation, so hopefully you can kind of see some of the potential animation stuff. Oops, don't want wireframe, I want object mode. You can see there's definitely a lot of animation potential with curves too. So let's add this curve back in here. Oops, add a Bezier curve, and I'm going to tab to edit and extrude, R rotate like this. Go to my object data properties. I'm going to bevel around like this. And so like start and end mapping, underneath bevel, you can see the start and end mapping like this. So like you can animate the end factor like this. So on frame 1, I keyframe the end at 0, and then maybe on frame 60, I change this to all the way at the end, 1, add a keyframe here. I've got a little thing going. Maybe I bring the object mode back here like this. Oh yeah, it's going through there. Okay. And The other thing too, you don't have to convert these to a mesh. So like you could just slap a material on here like this, add a new material. This one's going to be like a little bit kind of yellow like that. Oh, and this one's going to be really metallic, so it's kind of like gold. So actually maybe this should be a little bit more orangish like this, and like make it a little darker. Turn the roughness, where's my roughness? Turn the roughness even further down. Oh yeah, but it's got to be a little bit more yellow now. It's gold, metallic. Anyway, and so like, yeah, so you can animate and use curves as curves. You don't have to convert any of these to mesh. If you're wanting to like extrude and things like that, yeah, maybe you convert it to a mesh. But yeah, okay. One other cool thing I want to tell you about, or want to show you about using curves with animation is how to use a curve with your camera. And actually with anything. You can have a curve be the path for an animation. So let's see. Okay, so first let me get out of render preview. Let's just do material preview like that. It's a little faster. Okay. First, let's create a path for an object to move along. So I'm gonna go Shift A. Let's add a monkey in here. Oh no, sorry. We're making the path first. So Shift A, let's do a curve, Bezier curve, tab into edit mode, but then I'm just going to delete all of the vertices like this. And I'm just going to get my pencil out, and then I'm just going to draw a path like this. I'm going to go, okay. Great. It's so when you're not in an orthographic view, it makes it based on its perpendicular to the view, how you're looking at your scene through your viewport. So what I'll do is I'll just grab, use W for my selection tool. I'll do this, and actually maybe I'll turn on proportional editing, and I'll G move it like this, and just kind of, I don't know, move it a little bit like this, and R rotate like that. Okay, cool. And then tab for the whole thing, and I'm going to G kind of move it in front like this. Okay, now, whoops. Now let's add a Suzanne into our scene. So Shift A, I'm going to add a monkey. Let's G move you over here and actually scale you down a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to do Control 2 and right click Shade Smooth, and let's put a material on you just for fun. I don't know. Green. I like green, but like a dark green, like a forest green like this. Okay. All right. Okay, so we're going to talk about a sort of new subject here that I'm going to dip your toes into a little bit. So we're going to look at a new tab here. We've looked at your transform object properties. We've looked at modifier properties. Hopefully you watched the one about particles. We're not going to do physics, but this one here, right above your object data properties, it looks like, I don't know, like a telescope or something. Object constraints. We're going to look at a couple of these today. So this is it, like object constraints control kind of what your object does. And it like gives it constraints, I guess, you know, it follows a set of rules. So let's hit your, so we're on the object constraint properties tab here. I have Suzanne selected. Add object constraint. So you can see there's quite a few here, just as many as there are modifiers. But the one we want is follow path. So this is under relationship here, follow path. So if you put that on Suzanne, we have the option to select a target. So we want the path that Suzanne targets and follows to be our curve. So actually, I should rename this. This is like bouncy path. Okay, so clicking on Suzanne again. Well, I want my target to be, you can hit, just click here or use the eyedropper, and we want it to be bouncy path. So you can see it moved. Oops, it's behind my head. And it's like a little bit goofy, but what I maybe should do, so it was based on the distance from the origin point, which is a little funky. So let's see, what's the best way to do this? Maybe what I'll do is rather I should move you to the origin point. So, or not to the origin point, to the 3D cursor. So I'm going to reset. Oh, actually, you know what? I can do it this way. Sorry. Forget what I said. Add the follow path like this. And I want to select the bouncy path. And then we need to just change Suzanne's transform here. So like Suzanne is at like 2, 2, -1. So just make this 0, 0, 0. And now she'll be right at the end of the path like that. Okay. Now what we can do, go back to our object constraint properties. And let's keyframe, let's go to frame 0 here. Let's add a keyframe to the offset. So right now the offset is at 0. Let's move forward in time, 60 frames or whatever. And let's change the offset. So actually we need to go negative values. And you can see she's bouncing, going all the way to the end. I believe it's negative 100 will take us to the end. So minus 100 here, and then add a keyframe. And now, actually let me drag this up a little bit. And now, bounce, bounce, bounce. Suzanne is bouncing. Let's go back to our camera view here. Here's my cool logo animation. So Suzanne is following the path. And so now this is one of the other beautiful things about curves is that like we did this kind of relatively complicated animation with 2 keyframes. So yeah. Now maybe you're starting to see the power of curves a little bit. And same thing applies with the camera. I'll show you one more thing animating with the camera. Okay, so like let's do maybe I'll make another curve right here. Shift A, Bezier. Actually, I need to delete tab to edit and delete these. Okay, delete vertices. Let me look back this way. Okay, let me use my pen tool and just go kind of whoops. Kind of, I don't know, a little figure 8 like this maybe, and then back to the beginning there like that. Okay, so we've got a little figure 8. No, and actually I expected that to be larger. Let's move it back here. Oops. Oh, and I have proportional editing on. Sorry. Don't forget to turn that off. I always forget to turn it off. Okay, I'm moving it back by the camera here like this. Okay, and we can do the exact same thing we just did with Suzanne to the camera. So tab, I'm in object mode. I'm selecting the camera. I'm going to my object constraints here, tab. Adding an object constraint, and the one I'm adding is follow path. So actually I should rename this curve to camera path. So it's clear which one I'm selecting. Okay, selecting the camera. My target follow path is going to be camera path. As you can see, it went way far away. So I just should reset my camera properties here like this. So I'm going to go to my object data properties. I'm going to reset my location to 0, 0, 0. Okay. So now, oops, and then we need a keyframe. So on frame, we got to go to frame 1 like this. I'll go back to my object constraints. I want to keyframe the offset here. I'm going to hit this little guy. And sorry, just making sure I'm still recording. Move forward in time to like frame 64. Change the offset to, I guess we could go either way. Maybe change this to 100 like this. So it's back to the beginning, add a keyframe. So it's going in my figure 8 like this. Okay. Check out this. All right, so the camera's animating, but the rotation isn't changing. It's looking straight ahead the whole time. So like it's like a little bit dizzy. It's making it a little dizzy. I'll show you one more constraint. That's especially cool for cameras. Let me actually move my face over here. Whoops. Okay. Let's add another object constraint here. Tracking. Track 2. This is add a constraint. Okay, legacy tracking constraint prone to twisting artifact. Anyway, still look at that. So what this is going to do is this is going to tell the camera to always look at a specific target. So we can say, well, let's just try it. Let's track to, and I'm going to rename this to mountain logo. Mountain logo. So we want the camera to track to mountain logo. So it's always going to be pointing at the origin point of mountain logo. So actually, without even going into camera view, hopefully you can see. So there's like this little blue dotted line. The blue dotted lines signal object constraints. So it's always, no matter where the camera is, it's pointed at the origin point of the mountain logo. So then if we go to our camera view like this, you can see, you know, the camera's moving around, but it's pointed at the logo the whole time. So this is kind of, I'm spending a little bit more time on these object constraints than I was maybe planning on, but it's cool. And it works really well with curves. So you can have things animate along curves. You can have your camera animate along a path, a curve, but you can also use an object constraint to always have your camera pointed at a thing too. So that can save you some, a lot of time doing camera animations too. So like if you're wanting your camera to move, rather than having to like try to keyframe the, rather than trying to keyframe the rotation of your camera, you can just add this object constraint and say track to this object. So you're always looking at this object no matter where I move you. So curves. You can do some cool things with curves. Okay. Maybe I'll save this here. I should try to save my projects a little bit more often. I don't want fall 2022. I want spring 23. We'll call this curves, just for posterity. Okay, let's talk about. I'm going to take a little personal break here, and let's talk about the 3D cursor and precision using the 3D cursor. All right, let's talk about the 3D cursor. What is the 3D cursor? So you've seen it most likely. Here in the very center of your world here is this little red and white circle. This is the 3D cursor. Anytime you add a new object into your scene, it's putting the origin point at the 3D cursor. So if I go Shift-A, add a icosphere, it's going to put it right here. To move your 3D cursor around, you can, and you can do it by doing holding Shift key and doing a right click. So anywhere I'm putting right clicking, that 3D cursor is going, and so it's moving based on my perspective of the viewport. So, you know, it kind of points it right at the viewport, and then you can see, like, as I move around it, it's rotated a little bit. So right now, if I Shift A and add a Suzanne in here, put it right there. So I can Shift right click here, Shift A, add a Taurus, and it's right there, right at the 3D cursor. So your 3D cursor is kind of a you can use it to move things to the same position or to move it to precise positions. So my 3D cursor is here, and I can move objects to the 3D cursor. So with this object selected, I think, is it here in the menu somewhere? The keyboard shortcut is Shift S. And it brings up this little pie wheel for us here. But we can say move selection to cursor. Select this one, and it moves it to exactly where your 3D cursor is. Shift S, selection of cursor, selection of cursor. There we go. Now they're all grouped together. Shift S, selection to cursor. Okay, and this actually applies to things in edit mode as well. So like a lot of times you may use like a combination of the 3D cursor and your origin point to kind of line things up. So this is maybe a silly example, but let's say this. So I'm gonna select Suzanne here, tab into edit mode, and I can actually select a vertice like this one here. And I can say I can hold down the Shift key, Shift S, and I can move the cursor to selected. So I have that vertex selected, and this says snap 3D cursor to the middle of the selected items. So So we can see now my 3D cursor is exactly on this vertex. And then I could go tab like this. And then maybe, maybe I want to Shift S and snap the selection to the cursor like that, so it's on the back. Or what I could do, and this is maybe a ridiculous example, but through a combination of 3D cursor and origin and whatever, and I should say when you move an object to the cursor, it's moving the origin point to the cursor. So that's why it kind of appeared like in the middle of the head. So I would do a selection of cursor like this. You can see like the center of the icosphere went exactly where that, where the 3D cursor was. But what if I just wanted those points to touch? So what you could do is we need to go tab over here, and let's say I want this point to touch that point. So first what I'd do is I'd go Shift S, move the 3D cursor to selected, so the 3D cursor is right there. Then I could go probably tab for object mode, Shift S, and I could do maybe this I was trying to think. I was trying to move the origin point to this thing. So actually maybe what we could do, whoops, undo. I'm brainstorming live here. Oh yeah, I missed a critical step here. So object, so it's not in the Shift S menu. We go object mode, set origin to 3D cursor like that. Okay, so now the origin point is right there. So you can see if I rotate, it rotates right on there. Okay. And now what we could do, tab, go back to, tab for object mode, select on Suzanne, tab again to edit mode, select this vertex here, Shift D, no, not Shift D, Shift S. Make sure I didn't duplicate that. Okay, Shift S, cursor to selected, and then, okay, here we go. Object mode, select this one, Shift D, nope, not Shift D, Shift S, selection to cursor. Okay. Oh, I did duplicate it on accident. There we go. And now those points are exactly in the same spot touching. So that's like, snapping separate objects and like using a combination of like moving the origin point, moving the 3D cursor around and using that to your advantage. And then you probably would want to reset your origin point here, or maybe not. Maybe you're happy that it's rotating right on that point. But just a reminder to reset your origin point with an object selected in object mode. Object, set origin. We can go origin to geometry. So it's going to move the origin to the center of the geometry. Now it's back in the middle. Now it can rotate like this. Okay. What else can I tell you about the 3D cursor? So you can also kind of use this in combination with snapping. So just a reminder, right next to proportional editing here is snapping. Sorry, it's this one. Snap during transform. And so you can have things snap to vertex, but also like increment. So if you select that, and that is going to do it, based on the major grid lines here. So every 1 meter. So you can see here, like the location X is minus 0.82631, and if I G move it this way, it's 92613 and 102613. So it's snapping in 1 meter increments. That's what this increment means. But let's say like you wanted the corner of this cube to be snapping in increments. So it's like, I want it, it's not exactly right. So you could do the same thing. So you go tab into edit mode, maybe put the corner, select the corner, Shift S, cursor to selected, and then tab like this. And now and then we need to go object, set origin to 3D cursor like this. Okay. And so now here we could make this exactly -1 and 1 and 0. So it's this point is exactly on the grid line there. And now when we move this around, it's going to snap to exactly, Trying to get a better angle on it. It'll snap to exact 1 meter increments on the grid line there. Okay. The other thing so you can assign the 3D cursor to be on vertexes, but you can also have it be in the center of edges and faces. So if I go 3 for face select here, and I have this face selected, I'm in edit mode. I can go Shift S and cursor to selected, and now it's dead center on this face here. So we could, move this torus to there and go Shift S, selection of cursor, and RX90 like that, and scale it down. So it's exactly on the center of that. And for edges too. So like we could go 2 for edge select, just like that edge, Shift S, cursor to selected. There we go. And I don't know, you could do whatever you wanted. The other thing that sometimes comes in handy is sometimes you end up collapsing vertexes, and I'll kind of show you an example here. So let's say, for example, you've got I need to turn off snapping. You got a loop cut here, and for whatever reason, you end up like deleting these this edge, or dissolving this edge or something like that. So you're left with kind of some messy geometry, and you're trying to like optimize it a little bit. You may need to collapse some edges to make your mesh a little nicer. So in edit mode, I'll go 1 for vertex select. Oh, is that a keyboard shortcut? I didn't know. You guys, if you hit tilde, you can change the view. Huh. I learned something new. Just by fat fingering it. Okay, collapsing vertexes. So if you select 2 vertexes, you can right click and collapse is not the right word. Merge vertices. Collapse is a sub choice for this. So if you collapse, it's going to kind of draw them together. And this example is not great because they all generally have the same effect. But they'll kind of bring them together and merge them into one vertex. So that's merge vertices at center. But you also maybe saw that there was a option to merge vertices at cursor. So wherever the 3D cursor is, it's going to bring those 2 vertices together and smush them into one. So you've eliminated like an n-gon. I guess if you do it to both sides, merge vertices at center, and now you're left with a nice 4-sided shape over here. So collapsing vertices is one way to kind of optimize your mesh a little bit. So for example, a practical example, let's say you wanted to keep this the same size. You wanted to maintain your square face here. There's a couple ways you could do that efficiently and eliminate your n-gon. So the 3D cursor way to do it would be to select this one, Shift S, move your cursor to selected, then also select this one, right click, merge vertices, or M, at cursor here. So it didn't change the shape at all, but it just kind of zipped that one over. You could do the same thing here. So and actually the alternate method is not with the 3D cursor, but I'll show you that too because it's a really handy method. This button right here, auto merge vertices. So automatically merge vertices moved to the same location. So you wouldn't even need to say merge. It'll just automatically do it if they occupy the same space. So if you toggle on auto merge vertices, you could select this one here. Actually, select this one. And don't forget this keyboard shortcut because it actually is pretty handy. It's double tapping GG. And it allows you to move a vertex along an existing edge. So you can see that I'm sliding it back and forth here. And if I move it all the way to the end here, and so it's in the corner with that one, they occupy the same space. If I click, it auto merged them. So it kind of collapsed it down into one thing. Whoa, what's happening? So you can see now, if we do like wireframe like this, we've got that extra triangle face in here, but we've eliminated all of our n-gons, which is good. Okay. All right, so that's 3D cursor. Just sometimes you're looking for a way to move something precisely, and the 3D cursor is your friend. And just remember, that's also where new things come in the scene. So if you're leaving your 3D cursor somewhere and you shift A, and the monkey, it's like, what? Why did I put it there? Just that's the reason why. Shift C resets your 3D cursor to the origin point, to 0, 0, 0. And also shows you everything in your scene. So if you go Shift C, it kind of zooms out, shows you all the different elements in your scene, and resets your 3D cursor. So that's that. Okay, I decided the other thing I want to talk about is a couple of different modifiers. So we'll just kind of slowly keep adding in a few modifiers here and there, just so you can see how they work. So, real quick, I'm gonna make, and also this is just like a little modeling exercise too, just so you can see my thought process with things a little bit. I'm gonna model a coffee mug. I'm a coffee drinker. Let's make a coffee mug. So, it's always, it's a little tricky to figure out how to start. But for simplicity's sake, I'm actually going to start with a cube. Like, it's going to be super simplicity's sake. GZ. Whoops. Did I do that? SZ. Here we go. Let me scale it out a little bit. And I was talking about that. So we had a couple people show up to the office hour last week, and I kind of talked about modeling with the subdivision surface modifier. And like, there's a couple different schools of thought. And one is like, do you add your subdivision surface modifier at the end and kind of just smooth things out that way? Or you could, the very first thing you do is put a subdivision surface modifier on it and kind of visually work with the smooth surface as you go. So I'm gonna just showcase that method a little bit. And I'm already getting off topic of what I was, planning on doing. Subdivision surface 2. Okay. Tab for edit mode. Okay. So first step, I am going to face select. I'm going to select my top one, and I'm going to eye insert faces like this. Great. Then I'm going to select these outer ones. I'm going to hold down the shift key, select these outer ones, and I'm going to extrude these up. I'm starting to build my coffee mug a little bit. Okay. Actually, I want my levels viewport to be 2 like that. Okay, I'm gonna Control R, add a loop cut around the outside like this, and you can see. So sorry, how this prompt plopped into my head. One of the questions that came up was having to always do edge creases, and how it can be a little bit tedious. So if I go Shift E and add an edge crease, it actually doesn't really work with my rounded situation here because it's going to make my coffee cup square. So the alternate way to kind of make things less rounded is to just add loop cuts. So I'm going to Control R, add a loop cut around the outside like this, and I'm just going to kind of gently slide it up towards the top. So when I'm adding a loop cut, it's like creating less space for it to be kind of averaged out and rounded out. So it just kind of pushes up the flat part of the mesh. So I'm going to slide this, and so this is something that just kind of takes practice, getting comfortable with how the subdivision surface modifier works. But just know that by adding more geometry, by adding more loop cuts, it's kind of making it less rounded. So add one on the outside. I'm going to also add one on the inside of the coffee mug here. So Control R. I'm on the inside of the mug here, and I'll just kind of do the same thing. I'll just kind of move this up. And I'm realizing that this is like a really thick coffee mug. I maybe want to make it a little bit thinner. So what I could do, what's the best method? For me, start over. Undo, 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 undo. Like this. And actually, that's probably far enough to undo. I'll probably select this face here and just scale it out a little bit more. Just so it's a little bit skinnier. Because really, in the grand scheme of things, undoing that much, which took me 10 seconds. I'll extrude again like this. There we go. That's looking a little bit more like the right thickness of a coffee mug. Okay, Control R, I'm going to add a loop cut on the outside like this, kind of slide it up to see it, the roundness go away. Control R, let's do one on the inside too. Yeah, not too close to the top. Okay, so now like the bottom of my coffee mug is like really rounded. So then I'm just going to add another loop cut on the inside and slide it down towards the bottom. Control R. Slide it down so the bottom's a little less rounded like that. Okay, cool. And then maybe one more on the outside too. Coffee mug. Achieved. Handle. Well, how do we make a handle? Whichever way you want. Here's the way I would do it. I'm going to tab loop cuts. I like loop cuts. So let me do a little math. So I want a handle piece to come out and then a handle piece to come in. So there's going to be a gap in the middle. So what I want is enough loop cuts where there could be one that comes out. So I'm taking 2 cuts for the top part, another cut for a gap, and then a 4th cut for the bottom part of the handle. So we want 4 cuts. Then we go 1, so this, or like 4 cuts like this in the middle. Because I'm pointing at the screen, it doesn't make sense. One's going to come out the top, there's a gap, one comes out the bottom, and then there's also space on the top and bottom. Okay. So I'm just going to cut like that. Okay. And then also, I need a cut around this way because around the side vertically so that I have, a space to pull out of. So Control R, I'm going to cut like this. But you know what? This is going to mess up my mesh a little bit. I didn't quite think this through. Okay, so I didn't think it through. Now, guess what I'm going to do? Start over. Delete. Let's start with the cylinder, and let's just make it super basic. Let's just make it like a 8-sided cylinder like this, or 6 even. 6. No, 8. 8 is a good number. 8 is great. Y'all watch Sesame Street? Okay. Oh my face was in the way. Okay, hold on. Oh no. Here we go. Okay, I'm back over here. Okay, and let's rotate this like 15 degrees. No, is it 30? Not 15, 30. So set this to 0. I just want it to be facing the side. So I guess is that 20? Why is that such a weird number? 23? Anyway, whatever. Okay, let's try this again. Let's see. What do I want? Oh, guys, I don't want that. I clicked off and I forgot to change one of my properties. Okay, cylinder. Cap fill type. I didn't change the cap fill type. So vertices is 8. Depth 2, fine. Cap fill type, I want triangle fan because triangle fan is just a little bit more easy to manage when we're using a subdivision surface modifier. Okay, Control 2 to add the Control 2 to add the subdivision surface modifier. Great. Okay, now let's keep going. Control R, adding a loop cut down. Control R, adding a loop cut up like this. 3 for face select. I'm going to select all on the top. I to insert faces just a little bit, and then E to extrude down like this. Great. Okay, adding a couple more loop cuts inside, adding one here towards the top. Control R, adding a loop cut here towards the bottom. Okay, we're doing it. It's happening. Do I need any more loop cuts around the edge? No, I think I got it. I think we're good. Okay, now let me make cuts for the handle. Control R. So I want 4 cuts like this. Great. We can worry about the sizing of them later. Okay, tab. Let's see. 3 for face select. Let's select both of these and let's extrude these out a little bit. Sure. And let's make some loop cuts here like this. One here-ish and Control R, one here-ish. Then I'm going to go, let's see, 3 for face select, and I'm going to select these 2, and I'm going to F for fill. Oh, no, it didn't work. Okay, let's try that again. Right click and bridge faces. There we go. The F for fill didn't quite work. Okay, mugs coming along. Let's tidy this up a little bit. So I want it to be more rounded, so I'm going to do 2 for edge select. I'm going to GG slide this up here and merge those. I'm just like this edge GG, slide this down, merge those. Okay. Maybe why don't I select all of these? Actually, why don't I select these two here? And can I go GG like this? What I maybe should have done was insert faces a little bit more. Or maybe had another cut. Why don't I select these two and S scale these down? Yeah, it's a thick coffee mug handle. No. Let's solve this. All right, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do my top down. I'm gonna I'm gonna do tab for object mode. I'm gonna R rotate a little bit like this, so it's pretty much lined up like that. Okay, let's select. I'm gonna turn on X-ray select here. I'm gonna do 1 for vertex select. I'm gonna SY scale this down in the Y axis like this. Okay. And then maybe what I'll do is I'll add another loop cut here like this and slide that down and scale that in. Okay, now that's looking a little bit more normal. I'll do the same thing here. Control R, loop cut here, slide that in, S scale it down. I don't know. Okay, it's rough. And then a shade smooth. Okay, sorry, you guys. I spent so much time on this and I'm sorry. Okay, modifiers, new modifiers. The new modifier is array. Generate array. There we go. It's multiplying your things. Fixed count 4. So this was, I did rotate this a little bit, so that's why it's not perfectly on the y-axis. So if I set my, let's see, if I apply the transform, all transforms, there we go. So I'd reset my z back to 0, and so now they're lined up like that. Okay. Modifiers. I've got a modifier of array, and it's multiplying 5 times. You can change the relative factor of this. So maybe it's 1.1. Give it a little bit of space. So the factor is like, it takes into account the width of the object itself. So if the object is wider, it'll still space it out 1 object width apart in the x direction. Okay, and actually, you know what else I'm going to do is I'm going to apply my subdivision service modifier just to, for demonstration purposes. Okay. Now, let me add another modifier. How about another array modifier? Oh, okay. But instead of doing this offset in the x, let's do this one in the y, 1.1. Oh, so now it's 2. It's multiplying 5 times in the x and 2 times in the y. Cool. Very cool. Sorry, hold on. And let's just make this 3 just for fun. Okay. So array just multiplies it, and so any change that happens to the first one, it'll happen to all of them. You can see that because it gets wider, it's changing the offset as well. Okay, the other modifier I want to show you is Boolean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make a new icosphere like this, G, and S scale it down. Okay, Boolean. What a Boolean does is it can either join 2 things or take a chunk out of one thing, the size of another thing. I'll just show you. Okay, I've got my coffee mug selected. I'm going to add a modifier, and I want to add Boolean. Boolean is good for like cutting holes and things without actually, using modeling tools. Where is the Boolean? Oh, right here. Boolean. It's under generate. Okay. Boolean has and actually, I'm going to very consciously move this up to the top. So you can rearrange your modifiers, and it goes top to bottom. So right now it's calculating the arrays first and then the Boolean last. Move the Boolean up to the top. You can drag there's the little kind of bump dots on the edge to help you rearrange. So put Boolean first in the list. Okay, and open it up. And we want the object to be this icosphere here. Okay. So I'm going to move this close like this. Okay, So look at what's happening. And actually, I can even hide it like this. So what the Boolean does, sorry, hold on, back to here. Right now I have difference. So it's taking that object and removing the overlapping area from it, which is kind of cool. So what's happening is it's removing that chunk from the first coffee mug, and then it multiplies it in the X, and then it multiplies it in the Y. Actually, just real quick, let's look at the difference in this. So union means it kind of combines them together. Intersect means it's like the opposite of difference. So it's like all that's left is the little bite taken out of it. Now, okay, so let's look at how it works when you rearrange it. So if I drag this down, so it's going to do the first array, and then it's going to do the Boolean chunk bite taken out of it, and then it's going to do the Y array. So, so first it's multiplying it in the X direction, then it's taking a bite out of it, then it's multiplying that in the Y direction. And then if I move this to the bottom, first it's multiplying this way, then it's multiplying this way, then the bite's taken out of it. So this is where it's important to think about where the order in which your modifiers are. So Boolean is cool for like taking holes out of stuff. So you'll probably end up, and also be very careful because this Boolean can chunk your system a little bit. In fact, I think my recording is maybe slowing down a little. But then you just hide this from your render and from your view, and you can see it. Sometimes that's confusing because you can't see what's happening right away. So this is 3 holes, and this is 15 holes. Da-da-da-da-da-da. The other place where this is a consideration, the order of your operations is with mirror and subdivide. So let's see. Let me just cut this in half real quick. And 3, and just delete faces, and delete this face. Let's add a mirror. Except do it in the Y direction, please. Okay. And then also add a subdivision surface modifier. So even, here, I need to edit it just a little bit. Oops, and turn on clipping. Okay, and then, sorry, tab. I'm just trying to show you an example. Well, and it's hard to see here. But anyway, this is another case where like mirroring first and then subdividing is a thing versus subdividing first and then mirroring. It can have different results. So just something to be aware of. I didn't come up with the perfect example, but anyway, sorry. It's been an hour. Okay, so a little bit of a mixed bag today, as promised. But hopefully your interest has been piqued a little bit with the curves, especially. I think the curves can add some interesting animations to maybe your assignment 4. As you maybe noticed, kind of the subject matter kind of gets more and more specific as we go. Because you've already learned like quite a large chunk of the like basics of 3D basics. And so now the remainder of the weeks of the semester are kind of combining some things, putting things together. So assignment 5, which we'll talk about next week, is going to be like a little bit longer one because you have an additional week for spring break. But it's not necessarily anything new as part of that assignment. It's sort of like putting it all together to make something complete, but not animation. That's assignment 5. Assignment 6 is more related to animation. We're looking at character animations because I think I'd be remiss if we didn't at least introduce that in the 3D Basics class, because I think that's what a lot of people are interested in. And then your final project, which again you will have an additional week for, leading up to the end of the semester, is a sort of anything goes, anything you want. Just kind of put all of the pieces together to make something that you want to make. So that's that. Have a wonderful week. I know that our Zoom was canceled last week because of the snowstorm. So if you wish to have a one-on-one Zoom session with me, just let me know. I'd be extremely happy to do that with you. Otherwise, good luck, and as always, email with questions, and we'll see you. We'll see you in a Zoom next week, where we will look at your movie studio graphic animation. Goodbye.